Are you not entertained? Yeah, I mean, I was for the most part. As far as legacy sequels go, this one is pretty damn good. Like and subscribe if you haven't, hit the notification bell, and if you're new, check out the channel and let me know what you think. Let's dive into Gladiator 2. We've all seen them over the past decade or so. The Force Awakens, Jurassic World, Matrix Resurrections, Blade Runner 2049, the list goes on and on. The biggest problem with a lot of these legacy sequels is that many of them, outside of a few, rarely have anything new to offer. The vast majority are just updated retreads and retellings of the original, in which they are drawing inspiration from. The biggest drawback of Gladiator 2 is that it sort of falls into this category. This is essentially Gladiator 1. It just is. Outside of a few narrative differences, it is essentially the same story. A simple man trying to make his way in the world has his life upended and is wronged by the Roman Empire. He utilizes his skills as a fighter to jump the ranks in the gladiatorial games, and he makes an alliance to undermine and inspire a revolt against the corrupt Roman leadership. Now, with these modern day retellings, I don't always take issue with them as long as they're entertaining. I absolutely loathe the Star Wars sequel trilogy. I think overall it's pretty terrible. But what I will say is, even though Force Awakens is just A New Hope revamped, I'll be damned if it isn't one of the most entertaining Star Wars properties out there. That's how I feel about Gladiator 2. This movie isn't going to wow you with its storytelling. You've seen it all before, for the most part, in the first Gladiator. Only this time, it's without Russell Crowe. But what it will do is, it will keep you on the edge of your seat with its performances and spectacle alone. Now, this leads me to my second negative of this film, and full disclosure, I did enjoy this movie, but I want to get the negatives off the table first. You feel Russell Crowe's absence. Despite how you feel about Crowe as a person outside of the world of cinema, me personally, I don't give a shit. I think the guy's cool. But you have to acknowledge his incredible talents as a thespian. The dude can act, and he can act his ass off. And my God, is there a gaping Russell Crowe-sized hole in this movie. That first Gladiator, he absolutely commanded every single scene he was in. He embodied Maximus. He was a force to be reckoned with. And I know bringing back Crowe wouldn't have made much sense. Obviously, he died in the climax of the original film. But man, it's hard to not watch this movie and wish for a Russell Crowe appearance, especially with how influential Maximus's legacy is over the plot of this story. Now, I don't want that to distract from Paul Mescal because he gives it his absolute all in this movie. He takes what Crowe did and makes it his own. His performance in this movie is electric. He's stoic, he's brutal, he's unhinged at points. He's inspirational when he needs to be, and he even looks the part. I mean, he sort of looks like Russell Crowe. He's a tremendous actor, and he deserves credit for taking on a role inside of a franchise as notable as this one. I don't think anyone could have lived up to the legacy that Crowe cemented, but Mescal does a damn good job, and he tries his best. I have two criticisms of this character, Lucius. Number one, I don't know if I fully buy his status as a symbol of hope, change, and inspiration for the people of Rome. Maximus was unique in that he was a part of this machine and he was betrayed by the very government he put his faith in. He has an extreme personal connection to the foundation that he is seeking to topple. The issue with Lucius is he doesn't have that. Yes, he is the child of Maximus and Lucilla. Yes, he is the true heir to the empire, but the people of Rome don't know him. He doesn't know Rome. His mother sent him off as a child to protect him, and he grew up defending a separate nation that the Romans conquered. He has a reason to seek vengeance on Rome. They took his wife, they took his life, they took his friends, they took everything away from him. That is all well and good. I just never felt that he was the proper conduit to spur a revolution, given that he has no real connection to this city or its people. Secondly, and this is sort of a small thing, in the moment when Lucilla is killed right in front of him, that entire sequence falls so flat. There is basically no emotional reaction from Lucius at all. It's very weird. I don't know if this was a choice by Ridley or Mescal, but the whole interaction and how it plays out is extremely odd, and it just did not jive with me at all. The rest of the performances in this film are fantastic, just across the board. Connie Nielsen, Pedro Pascal, Denzel Washington, Joseph Quinn, Fred Hetchinger, all incredible. I want to talk mostly about Pascal and Washington. Pascal plays Marcus Acacius, a Roman general who trained under Maximus and has become disillusioned with the empire he protects. He is essentially the second half of Maximus's original characterization. In the opening scenes, he leads a naval assault on Lucius's home. After decimating the opposing forces, killing Lucius's wife, the army sells the men into slavery. It's here that you get a glimmer of what Pascal's excellent performance is going to be. As he stands among the men he has just conquered and is in the midst of enslaving them, he does so with such a haunting, quiet regret. And this continues throughout the film. Acacius, the now lover of Lucilla, holds dear a lot of the values that Maximus stood for. He is ashamed and frustrated by the empire he serves, even going so far as devising a coup until he's betrayed by the Senate he believed he could trust. I love Pedro Pascal, and he's great in this role. His face-off with Lucius in the Colosseum is epic, and it serves as a very important purpose in this narrative of really inspiring the people of Rome. This is a figure that the people know and adore, something that Lucius' characterization is missing. I like the idea of taking Maximus and not just doing that character again, and instead passing out his attributes to different characters in the story. But I will say, I think killing Pascal was a mistake. I think having Acacius and Lucius leading this revolution in the climax would have had more of an impact. For instance, in the climax, Lucius calls upon Acacius's army to follow him. He does this by having one of his allies give the commander Acacius's ring and explain to him that Lucius is the heir to the throne. And the commander just accepts this in blind faith. It's sort of jarring. I think having these two characters work in unison would have been the more logical step where the narrative is concerned. Denzel is Denzel. He's great in everything, let's be honest. He's one of the most respected and accomplished actors of our time, and I love him in this role. I think sometimes, like many actors, he kind of falls back into playing the same characters, and you get a bit of that in here, but for the most part, this is something you don't often see out of Denzel Washington. He plays Macrinus, a former slave and arms dealer who trains slaves as gladiators. His goal in this film is to utilize Lucius to dethrone the emperors and take control of Rome for himself. He's someone who is spiteful and vengeful toward this city, its government, and its people for their misdeeds against him. His motivations are understandable. When you first meet him, you believe that him and Lucius are going to work together for the same bright future for Rome. However, you quickly discover that he's a snake in the grass. He coerces and blackmails members of the Senate. He talks his way into becoming a very close ally of the emperors. He even at one point manipulates Emperor Caracalla into murdering his twin brother, Emperor Geta, by removing his head. He is as good a villain as Joaquin Phoenix's Commodus, in my opinion. Something that I did not expect going into this movie. Denzel turning heel was a welcome surprise. He plays this character with so much charisma. The character is just so goofy and eccentric. Every scene he's in, he's always like touching sculptures, touching these golden thrones, just imagining this empire being his. And he just chews up every single scene, and you cannot take your eyes off of it. The most impressive aspects of this film are the same features we've all come to know and love with any Ridley Scott movie. The gorgeous visuals, the thrilling action, the elaborate and massive set pieces, and the tangible locations are all phenomenal. Everything that Ridley Scott does well as a legendary director is on display in this movie. One of my favorite sequences is a naval battle inside the Colosseum, something that wasn't present in the original, and it's a very unique and enjoyable sequence. There's one criticism that I keep seeing around about this movie, and it's that the plot of this movie essentially makes the narrative of the original film feel irrelevant, in the sense that Maximus died attempting to inspire change, and that change didn't happen. So what's the point? I actually gave credence to this notion after getting out of this film initially. I somewhat agreed, but the more I thought about it, the less of an issue it became. Just looking back through history, revolutions, especially full-on revolutions that aim to topple an immensely powerful empire, take time. I don't think Maximus's actions went unnoticed. Lucius and Acacius and even Marcinus all draw inspirations from what he did in different ways. There are revolutions across the world today that have taken multiple generations to unfold. The point is, they all have to start somewhere, and this one started with Maximus. I understand that a lot of people will be turned off by the familiar nature of this film, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. I fully understand, actually. A lot of people loved Jurassic World. That movie just isn't really for me. I love Jurassic Park, and it's Jurassic Park, but not nearly as compelling, enjoyable, or impressive. For me, Gladiator 2 is a worthy successor to Gladiator, even if it carries a lot of the same beats. This movie is entertaining, and the quality of the production is undeniable. Does it overtake the original? Of course not, and I don't think any sequel, prequel, or spin-off of this franchise ever will. But it does a good enough job at continuing the story of this universe without degrading what came before it. And with these legacy sequels nowadays, I think that's a win.